Hey everybody, Michael Snyder here, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is September 13th, and right now we're looking at the mid-level water vapor loop. You can see this upper level low spinning directly over western Washington as we speak. This may spawn some thunderstorms across the Cascades and on in through northeast Washington, eastern British Columbia, down towards Oregon and Idaho as well. And then we're going to take a look at the extended forecast as we have a trough that's going to dig down across Pacific Northwest. We'll see how much of an impact that has across the region here. Then we'll take a look at the extended as well, which looks like some of the models are hinting at some ridge building here across Pacific Northwest for some seasonably warm weather possible through the end of September coming up here. So we'll continue to look at that, and I'll show you a couple other little fun things that I like to do at this time of year as we start getting into the fall season. Checking this out now, you can see this is a day one outlook for thunderstorms. Does include some of the western slopes, the Cascades of Washington here too, and you can see eastern Oregon, eastern Washington, Idaho is included in that as well. Looking at day two, this is for tomorrow. Northeast Washington pushes off towards Idaho and Montana. This would include eastern British Columbia as well. So look at Spokane. Thunderstorms Tuesday and Wednesday. This is for the higher terrain. You can see the flood watch here for places like Wenatchee, Chelan, Winthrop, Omak, Republic, and Colville here for eastern Washington, some of the Cascades. So heads up for that. Flash flooding possible, actually. Again, isolated rainfall amount, so it's not going to be a huge washout across the entire region, but some of this localized activity could bring some, as you can see, rock slides, lightning, new fires, etc. Good graphic there by the National Weather Service Spokane this morning. I like to show this really quick here too. This is National Hurricane Center, Central Pacific Hurricane Center. This just kind of shows you, they show even like the percentage of chance of cyclone formation in 48 hours. You can look at the Atlantic if you want to too. You know, if you're traveling, you're going out on vacation, the Caribbean or whatnot, you're going to the East Coast, you just kind of want to see what's going on in the tropics. You can do this National Hurricane Center. Really good graphic here. So no actual systems, just chance of formation here the next couple of days. Now looking here at Seattle, another nice day yesterday, 72 degrees, right about average. You can see the average temperature is starting to drop off pretty rapidly as we get towards the end of September. Look at the 67. We started off the average high of the month here, September 1st at 75, but we may warm up again here towards the end of the month. We'll see what we're going to expect as far as that is concerned. We're still off in fantasy land a little bit here, but it's something worth watching right now. Looking at the HRRR, the 12Z, this 3-kilometer HRRR, this goes out 48 hours, 8-meter above ground smoke density. If we put this into motion here, you can see eastern Washington, Oregon, Cascades still going. Cedar Creek fire out here still burning across Oregon. You can see, though, that surface smoke does start to relax for a lot of eastern Washington, kind of pushing off east into Idaho and western Montana. Check out western Montana dealing with some pretty nasty surface smoke here as we get into Wednesday morning. And you can kind of see the Cedar Creek fire there pulsing there across the Oregon Cascades. You can see some fires across higher terrain of British Columbia as well. But for the most part, the western portions of Washington, Oregon are not dealing with much surface smoke. Maybe a little bit leaking into the area of western Washington, but not too bad. Definitely not like couple days ago. Now looking here at the lightning flash density here on the HRRR, the 12Z, you can see some lightning potential come across the Cascades as we go through this afternoon into the evening hours going across northeast Washington. That's why Spokane does have that flood watch for these areas across the Cascades, northeast Washington. You can see some thunderstorm activity down here through eastern Oregon into Idaho as well. For that kicks off Wednesday morning to the east, but then you can kind of see that upper level low spinning in the atmosphere here, includes much of British Columbia, eastern portions here, maybe North Cascades of Washington, northeast areas as well. Again here on the, according to the HRRR 3KM anyway. If we look at the NAM 3KM, you can see the upper level low here. This is 0 to 6 kilometer wind shear and NOS. It's just difference of wind speed between the column of atmosphere 0 to 6 kilometers, about 3.6 miles up. I'm just showing it to give you a good imagery here of that upper level low spinning across the area. You can see it moving across the Cascades this evening. That's what's going to spawn some of these thunderstorms across the Cascades into northeast Washington. You can see that upper level low move across into eastern BC by Wednesday there. Kind of an interesting look at that upper level low there. Now we're going to dive into the extended forecast a little bit here. You can see that upper level low here plainly over Washington. As we go through Tuesday, Wednesday, it starts to kick out. And you can kind of see we're in between ridges here across near the Aleutians here, central Canada, and we start to carve out this trough across the area. And this is the 06Z. So let's go ahead and check out the yesterday afternoons. It goes out a bit further. You can see that trough open up right over Washington here, but then it kind of bypasses a little bit. Maybe the more favorable dynamics might go a little bit further south, and you can see we're caught in this northwesterly flow. Ridges offshore here, troughing along the west coast here. Still some uncertainty with this system coming up here this week, and does not look like a huge rainmaker here, but we'll continue to monitor that. And then as we go on through mid next week, check out this ridge that starts to build here and near the end of the forecast here on the European. This would bring some warm weather again to the Pacific Northwest. Some of the models are pointing at this now. Let's go ahead and take a look at the European control. This is a little bit lower resolution here. Ensemble control, and you can see that upper level low move through. There goes the trough setting up over Washington and Oregon there. And again, pretty good agreement with the ridge offshore, kind of keeping us in that northwest flow aloft. And look at this ridge just kind of hanging out and building. This is really substantial here, although we are pretty far out, 270 hours. But look at this, just very unusual to have a ridge in this position here for late September. This would be pretty noticeable here. I mean, look at this thing just built all the way into Alaska, this 597, very big dome of high pressure here, just ruling the Gulf of Alaska here. So we're just going to continue to watch this as of now. We're not going to sound any alarms on any major heat waves coming just yet, because these things can be fickle at this time of year. But we're going to go ahead and continue to watch it. Now let's see what these systems would look like here. We have 6-hour precipitation, mean sea level pressure, 850 millibar temperature is the red here, the red lines. But now we're just going to go ahead and put this into motion here. You see the upper level low finally move through. Now here goes that trough settling over us on the week, and you can see a bit of precipitation moving into Oregon here. There would be some decent amounts coming through Oregon here, coastal range, maybe west slopes of the Cascades. They could really use that. Maybe that would help extinguish that Cedar Creek fire across the area here. And continued northwest flow would keep us maybe in some more precipitation as we move through Monday here. But then here we go, starting to build this ridge. Storm track stays north well up into Alaska here, as we would get some pretty good warmth and really continue to be dry here through the end of September here, according to the latest model runs. Now taking a look here, this is the 850 millibar temperatures. Let's see what the temperatures aloft would look like in such scenarios. You can see we do cool down, and we would remain pretty chilly aloft here as we go through, but you can see quickly that cold air gets pushed down, but it still kind of hangs out here as we go through this weekend on into early next week. Then you see the ridge rebuild, and we really start to kick up some heat here across Pacific Northwest. Look at some of these temperatures, well above average here at 5,000 feet, which of course is going to mean some warm surface temperatures across the region. Look at the contrast here. This cold air just barreling down through central Canada. Very warm conditions here along the west coast of North America over the Gulf of Alaska here. So this is definitely something to watch at this point, but we're not going to sound any alarms yet. I expect the models to be changing here as we go through these few next upcoming days. Let's look at the Canadian model here. This is the ensemble mean of all its runs here, the average of all its runs here. There's the upper level low, good agreement there. And then we're in between the two ridges here. This trough digs out across Pacific Northwest. You can see the main dynamics heading down towards California here as we remain in this northwest flow. The troughing staying a little bit inland. This would be a fairly dry system, not a big rainmaker, but still we could get some meaningful precipitation out of one of these little systems here that might move down through the weekend on into early next week. And the Canadian through the extended here, not quite as bullish on a ridge forming, but again, this is just kind of an ensemble mean here. It does show a transient ridge moving through mid next week. So model agreement is not great at this point. You can see there is some troughing here still across the Gulf of Alaska, according to the Canadian run of last night or yesterday afternoon. Let's take a look at the GFS here. Upper level low swings through. There's the ridge on either side of us, central Canada, Gulf of Alaska. You can see those dynamics. GFS not been doing too bad, actually. It's been showing these dynamics going down towards California a little bit better than the European was kind of showing things passing off to the east a little more. So the GFS might end up being correct, a little bit more correct here. But now check that out. You can see the ridge start to build in the extended here. Let's go ahead and update this because the GFS is currently running. It was out to hour 219 there. Now, if we look here, you can see upper level low just kind of cut off here across the Intermountain West. But you can see the ridge building on the GFS too. So there might be something to this ridge building here across Western Canada here across North America. But again, we're way out there at this point. I expect this position to change around a lot. We're going to get some flip-flopping in the forecast here. But the GFS and the European are kind of hinting at that ridging through the extended forecast here. Now, looking at Medford, Oregon here, for example, you can see that trough existing across the weekend here into early next week. And look at this. Some of the control runs have Medford way up into the 90s here. But you can see the ensembles are less, but they're still fairly warm. And you can see just the drastic swings in some of these individual ensemble runs here, showing great uncertainty through the extended forecast here too. So no need to get alarmed about any major heat waves just yet. Just we're looking at the possibility of some pretty warm temperatures coming up here through the extended. But we have plenty of time to work that out still. You can see Seattle, Tacoma. I mean, look at this. Some of these temperatures here through late September all the way up into the 80s here on the control run. But you can see the control run is kind of an outlier here. And some of these ensemble runs, you know, only a few of them actually are higher than the control. You can see the mean is much more reasonable 70s, low mid 70s here. But again, this just depends on how things set up and how this ridge sets up through the extended. So just something to watch at this point. You can see some of these high temperatures only expected to be into the 60s here as this trough moves through Saturday, Sunday, Monday of this weekend and on in through early next week. So if you like those cooler temperatures here, this weekend's not going to be bad. It's just getting the precipitation in here that might be a little bit more difficult. Bellingham here kind of showing that highlight of potential warmth coming up here through the extended as well. But you can see some highs just down into the low 60s here possible as we go through this troughing period this weekend and on in through next week. Checking this out, Portland International. Look at that. You can kind of see that signal out there. Again, the control is kind of the outlier here. You can see the mean a much more reasonable 80 degrees or so through the extended. But again, we have plenty of time to work that out. We'll check that out day by day and see how this forecast evolves here. We can see the relative cool down coming up here. Maybe some highs only into the upper 60s, around 70 coming up for Portland here through this weekend. Checking out Spokane, you can see that, again, the hint of maybe some heat coming in through the extended. But again, the cool down, the nice cool down coming through this weekend and through early next week. Looking at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, this is precipitation values. You can see, I mean, a few tenths of an inch of rain some of these models have. Some of them don't have much at all. Some of them are downright dry. The control run kind of a little bit of an outlier here, showing 4/10 of an inch through the day. It looks like Saturday evening. This would start in through Sunday morning here. But the mean is a much less, down just under 1/10 of an inch here through the area. And you can see some, just as you get off into the extended, how some of these runs get kind of chaotic. Some are showing over an inch in a 24-hour period, and most of them are dry, and maybe another system moving through in the extended, just depending on where that ridge sets up and what's going on. So you can see just kind of a chaotic look to the extended there, which is pretty typical as you look at these precipitation amounts. This is for Medford, Oregon. You can see the control run calling for about a 3/10 of an inch of rain. There is a chance that some of that moisture could move down into Western Oregon, Southwest Oregon here through the weekend and on into early next week. But you can see many of these members are still dry, just showing maybe a couple tenths of an inch here. But yeah, a few of them are just plain dry. And then you can see a couple with maybe around 1/2 an inch. But again, low confidence in this system on how much precipitation is going to bring any one area through this weekend coming up here. So 6 to 10 day outlook, you can see that plainly the troughing position shown here across western portions of the U.S. here, including the Pacific Northwest. This would be valid for September 18th through 22nd here. Above average signal across Idaho, eastern Washington, Oregon, Montana there too, as well as some of the western Washington and Oregon here. We'll see how that pans out though. Now, here's something fun I like to do here when we get towards the fall season. This is what I call fantasy windstorm hunting. This is purely for entertainment at this point. You can see that if we look closely here on run number 22, or I think maybe 21, 49 miles per, actually this is miles per hour, yes. So 49 miles per hour here on that. So you can go ahead and search that run and watch that low pressure kind of move through the area there on one of those ensemble runs. But you can see there's nothing backing this up. Other models don't show that, even though there is one out here. It looks like number 45 does show 42, but it's kind of fun to kind of watch some of these fantasy forecasts come up, then you go ahead and look at where the sea level pressure map comes, and it kind of shows some of these fantasy wicked storms moving into the area. But we're still kind of early in the season to be looking at this, but it's just something fun I do, especially once we get into October, November. You start trying to look way out there and see if maybe there's a hint at a windstorm coming. But again, this is just for entertainment purposes only at this point. So yeah, there goes the upper level low across the region. We are going to get some troughing this weekend, so we are going to remain probably a little bit below normal across much of the region here as we bring this troughing across the area. And again, it doesn't look like a very overly wet system coming through this weekend, but some areas could still get some beneficial rainfall out of it. We'll continue to monitor that. As you saw, we still have some model disagreement on what kind of storm system is going to move through here, just exactly where it's going to target. Is it going to just bypass Washington, maybe at southern Oregon, or will it dive into Washington, Oregon, or will it set up mostly over Northern California? And then we'll continue to watch that. You know, we've got some time to look at that extended to see if the heat will return. Are we going to build another ridge in the wake of that trough as we go through the extended? So always something to watch here in the Pacific Northwest, and it's not even fall yet. Once we get into fall, we're going to get some nice systems rolling through here, maybe a windstorm or two. We'll start to get some atmospheric rivers back into the area here, and maybe start to build the snowpack as we get in towards November and December here. We are in a La Nina pattern here, so maybe we'll get another cool, chilly December showing up here. Again, that's just kind of a coin flip at this point. Maybe the dice are loaded towards a little bit of a chilly December just because of that La Nina base pattern. But anyway, hope you guys are enjoying the day. We'll go ahead and do this again tomorrow. We'll try to consolidate some of these forecasts, and we'll really try to pinpoint what kind of system is going to roll through here this week and on in through early next week. But yeah, watch out for those thunderstorms across the Cascades. Today, there could be some flash flooding. As you saw, they did have that flood watch out here for portions of northeast Washington and the Cascades as well. And really out through Idaho and Montana, too, could get some thunderstorms, as you can see here, eastern British Columbia. So anyway, hope you guys are having a good day. Thanks for all my new member subscribers signing up there. Looks like we're at 54 members now. So again, without you guys, this page is not possible. And I'll leave it on that note, and we'll talk again tomorrow.